There are SQL queries in MVC SQL file which are used for creating database and needed tables. The first query will create scheme which is called MVC. Let's execute it. The second query selects MVC scheme. We also execute it. The next query is used for creating table in which there will be text pages of the website. It is named as pages and consists of columns: ID, alias, title, content, and is published. Let's make a query and create table by this way. Then we add 2 records to this table. The next table will have messages, which will be sent via contact form on our site. The following table is users, which stores data on authorized users of the site. We'll use it while working on admin site panel. This table has main fields such as login, email, role, and password hash, since it's not the best idea of keeping password overtly. Let's make script and create users table. And now we test what has happened. We make show tables request, and as we can see, tables are created. The next is making request to pages table in order to look at its records. As we can see, data of 2 pages is stored in the table now. In content field there is page text. For now we may work with our database connecting to it from PHP. In order to connect to database, we need such parameters as host, login, password, and database name. Let's open config.php file and specify all these parameters as settings. The first parameter is db host equal to localhost in our case. The second parameter is login. In our case, it is root. db password parameter must have password. In our case, it is empty. The last db name parameter is database name, which we have just created. That is MVC. Now let's start creating class which will be responsible for connection to database. The best name for this class is db in capitals. We locate it in db-class.php file in lib directory. The next step is adding protected connection attribute to it. Then we have to add class constructor which accepts host, login, password, and database name as attributes and creates connection object. The constructor mission is creating new connection with the help of MySQLi. This is how it looks. We add test for error existence below with the help of MySQLi connect error function. If error occurs during the connection, exception will be thrown with the text which is could not connect. The main mission of DB class is making queries to database and returning their results. For this purpose, we create query function, the argument of which is query line. Then we add test for connection existence. If connection is unsuccessful, function returns false. If it doesn't happen, we add to the variable result value, which is returned by the query function of the connection object. If error occurs during the query making, we throw exception. All these exceptions may be caught in index.php file. The next step is adding test for received value type with the help of isBool function. If the result has Boolean type, it must be returned. Let's write return result. All of this is needed for the correct result to be returned by query function of the DB class irrespective of SQL query type. If this step is implemented successfully, it means that there may be data which may be received with the help of fetch_assoc function. We add data variable and assign empty array to it. Then we add while loop, which adds all the received lines to data array. This is a typical way of working with MySQL. After the data array is formed, we may just return it. As a result, we've created a function which will implement queries to database and return its results. In order to preclude SQL injections, we add escape function, which processes lines with the help of MySQLi escape string function before they are fallen into SQL query. And now we are ready to connect to database. The connection will be implemented in app class code. Let's add public static DB attribute. With the help of it, we may receive access to DB class object from any place of our project. For this purpose, we create object to which we pass settings of the connection to database as arguments. Do remember these settings to be added to config.php file by our own. Everything is pretty simple. We'll use MySQLi in order to work with database. And now it's time to check how queries to database are being implemented. We open index.php file and go to DB class object. Let's output the list of pages from pages table. The instance of DB class will be accessible all over the application code via DB attribute of the app class. We open browser and refresh page. As we can see, the array is output by 2 elements. These lines are received from database. It means that everything works correctly. In the next lecture, we'll continue working on database and we'll also create the first module in our project.